Okay, here we are, chapter 1, lesson 3, solving equations with variables on both sides. Okay, so sometimes we have like an x on both sides of the equation, and there's a little trick to that. So we have an equal sign, and on both sides we have a variable, like we have a 2x on this side, and we have, say, a negative 7x on this side. And then we also potentially have some other stuff as well, like 15. So this is what it looks like in example 1. 15 minus 2x equals a negative 7x. And whenever you see a variable on both sides, you still need to combine like terms. And that's what we call it, but when there's a variable on both sides, that's sometimes a little more complicated. So we're going to try to get this x and this x together. And we can do it either way. We can try to bring this x over to this side, or we can take the negative 2x and try to bring it over to the other side. And it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same with either, but this is the easier way, is to get it away from the 15. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I'm doing this because I don't want this 2x here. A negative 2x, when added to a positive 2x, cancels out and you get 0, or you're just left with 15. Negative 7x added with a positive 2, I get something different. I get a negative 5x, because a negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. I'm going to redo that so that my 5 actually looks a little better. Okay, now I'm still trying to solve for x, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5 to get x by itself. And I want to divide by a negative 5 because a negative 5 divided by a negative 5 is 1. And that leaves me with just the x all by itself. And 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. So x equals negative 3, or negative 3 equals x. Yeah, those work great. Let's look at another one. Sometimes we have to use the distributive property. So example number 2, negative 2, x minus 5 equals 6 times 2 minus 1/2 x. Okay, so here I have the distributive property happening twice here. Negative 2 is multiplied by everything in the parenthesis. And over here, 6 is multiplied by everything inside this parenthesis. So it ends up looking like negative 2 times x, that's this first one, and a negative 2 times a negative 5 ends up being a positive 10. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. And over here, 6 times a positive 2 is 12. And 6 times a negative 1/2, 6 ones times negative 1/2, looks like that, ends up being negative 6/2, like that, which ends up being negative 3. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So it's going to be negative 3x. So 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times negative 1/2 is negative 3x. And we can actually think about this. If we said, what is 1/2 of 6? We'd get 3. Half of 6 is 3. So 6 times 1/2 is 3. But since this is 6 times negative 1/2, it's negative 3x. Now we're back to the same place we were last time, where we're combining our like terms. And we're going to do that by getting our x's together. We're going to get these two together. And I'm going to put a box around these numbers. So these numbers are just integers, and the squares are integers. But the circles have variables in it, but it's the same variable. So we've got a negative 3x and a negative 2x, and I can go either way, just like we did before. Let's add 3x to both sides, and then rewrite it. Okay, so this disappears. Let's go back to orange. So negative 2 plus 3 is 1, so that's just going to be x. 1x is just x plus 10 equals 12, and I no longer have an x on this side. Now I have to go back to where I was going to combine these two, just the regular integers, and we'll do that by going the opposite way, by subtracting 10 from both sides. So plus 10 minus 10 is 0, and I just have x. And 12 minus 10 is 2. So x is equal to 2. And it's not a bad idea, just see how this works, to redo the problem, but put the 2 in. Okay, so we're going to put the 2 into the problem. Everywhere you see an x, we're going to write a 2. So it's negative 2, and instead of writing x, we're going to write 2 minus 5. And 6 times 2 minus 1/2 x, but x is 2, so it's 1/2 times 2. Like that. Okay, and then we go through and we solve this. 2 take away 5 is negative 3. And 6 times 2 minus, what's 1/2 times 2? It's equal to 1, because it ends up being 2 halves, so it's minus 1. And then if I solve this, I have negative 6. Ooh, it's not negative, it's positive. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, equals 6 times 2 minus 1 is 1. And 6 times 1 is 6, so we have 6 equals 6. And because that's true, then I know that this worked. Yay! Happy face. Oh, that's a silly happy face. But I'm happy. Okay, so that's that one. You got to do a few of those on your own. And that's basically how it works. It looks like that will get you started for this lesson. Have fun with it.